She signed the divorce papers without shedding a single tear. Sterling Thorne thought he was discarding a nobody, a plain silent housewife who didn't fit his billionaire lifestyle. He thought he was free to marry his glamorous mistress and take his company to new heights. He was wrong, dead wrong. As security dragged his wife out of the gala, Sterling didn't notice the small gold pin on her lapel, the symbol of the chairman. The man just kicked out the owner of the very building he was standing in. And tomorrow he's going to learn that silence isn't weakness, it's a warning. The chandeliers inside the grand ballroom of the Pierre Hotel in Manhattan didn't just sparkle, they judged. Or at least that's how it felt to Sophia Vance. She stood near the back of the room clutching a glass of lukewarm sparkling water, her simple navy dress vanishing against the sea of haute couture gowns worn by New York's elite. Her husband, Sterling Thorne, was at the center of the room. He was the sun everyone orbited. Tall, with hair the color of midnight and eyes like cold steel. Sterling was the CEO of Thorne Enterprises, a conglomerate currently valued at $4 billion. He was laughing at something a senator said, his hand resting possessively on the lower back of a woman who was definitely not Sophia. It was Isabella Montclair, the daughter of a shipping magnate. She was everything Sophia wasn't: loud, glittering, and hungry for attention. She wore a red dress that looked like it cost more than the house Sophia grew up in. Sophia adjusted her glasses. She had been married to Sterling for 3 years. 3 years of being the transition wife, the quiet woman Sterling had married to please his dying grandfather, Arthur Thorne. Arthur had adored Sophia. He had found her working as an archivist in the company basement and claimed she was the only one who understood the soul of the business. But Arthur was dead now, and Sterling's patience had expired. The music swelled a dramatic orchestral piece, and Sterling took the microphone on the stage. The room hushed. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sterling's voice boomed, smooth as aged scotch. "Thank you for celebrating the most profitable quarter in Thorne Enterprises history. But tonight I have a personal announcement." Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. She knew this was coming. She just didn't think he would do it here, not in front of the press, not in front of the world. Sterling smiled, pulling Isabella closer to him on stage. "They say a man's success is measured by the partner he chooses. For the last few years I have felt stifled, held back by mediocrity." A ripple of nervous laughter went through the crowd. People turned to look at Sophia. She didn't move. She didn't blink. "But no longer," Sterling continued, his eyes locking onto Sophia across the room with a look of pure disdain. "I am happy to announce that as of this morning my legal team has filed for the dissolution of my marriage to Sophia Vance, and—" He paused for effect, dropping to one knee before Isabella. "I am asking Isabella Montclair to be the future Mrs. Thorne." Camera flashes blinded the room. The applause was polite but awkward. It was a public execution. He wasn't just divorcing her. He was erasing her. Sterling stood up and spoke into the mic again, his tone turning icy. "Sophia, I see you back there. Since this is a celebration for family and shareholders, and you are no longer either, I'd appreciate it if you made your exit. Security will escort you." The humiliation was a physical blow. 2 burly guards in black suits stepped toward her. One reached for her arm. "Don't touch me," Sophia said. Her voice was quiet, but it had a strange resonant authority that made the guard hesitate. She set her glass down on a passing tray. She walked toward the stage, not away from it. The room went silent. Was she going to scream? "Cry beg," Sterling sneered. "Sophia, don't make a scene. It's pathetic enough as it is. Take the settlement and go back to whatever library I found you in." Sophia stopped at the foot of the stage. She looked up at him, then at Isabella, who was smirking down at her like a queen looking at a peasant. "You're right, Sterling," Sophia said, her voice steady enough to be picked up by the nearby boom mics. "I don't belong here. This room is full of people who think power is something you wear." She reached into her purse. Sterling flinched, perhaps expecting a weapon. Instead, she pulled out a key card. It was black with a single gold crest on it, the crest of the Thorne family, but an older version, one that hadn't been used in branding for 20 years. She tossed the card onto the stage. It skittered across the floor and landed at Sterling's expensive Italian shoes. "I'll leave," Sophia said. "But keep that card safe, Sterling. You're going to need it to get back into your office on Monday." Sterling kicked the card away, laughing. "Get her out of here." As the guards finally corralled her toward the exit, Sophia didn't look back. She walked with a straight spine. But as she pushed through the heavy double doors and into the cool night air of Fifth Avenue, her phone buzzed. It was a text message. Sender, Mr. Henderson, Senior Counsel message. Did he do it? Sophia typed back a single word. Yes. Sender. Then initiate Protocol 0. The board is waiting for your command. Madam Chairman. Sophia looked back at the hotel where the party was raging on without her. Enjoy the champagne, Sterling, she whispered. It's the last thing the company is ever going to buy you. The penthouse at the Millennium Tower was quiet. It was a cold, modern space glass steel and very little warmth. It was Sterling's house. It had never been Sophia's home. It was 2:00 a.m. when Sophia finished packing. She didn't take much. 2 suitcases, mostly clothes she had bought with her own salary from her archiving days books and a few photo albums. She left the diamond necklaces, the designer bags Sterling had forced her to carry for appearances, and the keys to the Porsche. She was zipping up the last bag when the front door slammed open. Sterling stumbled in, smelling of expensive whiskey and Isabella's perfume. He loosened his tie, looking at the suitcases with a scoff. Finally, he muttered, leaning against the door frame. I thought you'd cling to the furniture like a barnacle. I just needed my things, Sterling, Sophia said calmly. Your things. He laughed, walking over and kicking one of the suitcases. Nothing here is yours. You came to me with debt and a Goodwill wardrobe. I gave you the world, and you bored me to death with it. He poured himself a drink from the crystal decanter. I was generous with the prenup, Sophia. You get the apartment in Queens and $50,000. Don't try to fight for more. My lawyers will bury you so deep you'll be archiving legal briefs in hell. Sophia looked at him. She remembered the man she thought he was 3 years ago. The man who wept at his grandfather's funeral. The man who had held her hand and promised to protect Arthur's legacy. That man was gone, consumed by greed and the validation of people like Isabella. I signed the papers, Sterling, she said, pointing to the document on the kitchen island. It's all yours. The company, the house, the image. Sterling picked up the papers, scanning them. He looked surprised. You didn't even ask for alimony, no fight. I don't want your money. Because you know you wouldn't win. He sneered, satisfied. You're a nobody, Sophia. You were a placeholder. A warm body to keep the board happy until I solidified my control. Now that I have the majority vote, I don't need a mascot. Is that what you think you have majority vote? Sophia asked softly. I own 40% of the shares. The board loves me. I am Thorne Enterprises. He raised his glass in a mock toast. Now get out. Isabella is moving in tomorrow and I don't want the place smelling like mediocrity. Sophia grabbed the handles of her suitcases. She paused at the door. Grandfather Arthur always said that arrogance is the blindfold we tie on ourselves. Arthur was a senile old fool, Sterling snapped. And so are you. Sophia walked out. The elevator ride down the 60 floors felt like a descent into freedom, not failure. Outside, a black town car was waiting. Not a taxi. A Maybach with tinted windows. The driver, a man with graying hair and sharp eyes, stepped out and opened the trunk. Good evening, Mrs. Vance, the driver said. Just Ms. Vance George. Or Sophia, she corrected, handing him her bags. She climbed into the back seat. Sitting there, illuminated by the soft glow of a tablet screen, was a man in his 60s with a silver beard and a pinstripe suit. It was Silas Henderson, the most feared corporate attorney in New York, and the executor of Arthur Thorne's private estate. He signed, Henderson asked, not looking up from his tablet. He signed? Sophia confirmed, buckling her seatbelt. He thinks he bought my silence with $50,000 and an apartment in Queens. Henderson chuckled darkly. He has no idea that by signing those divorce papers he triggered the clause in Arthur's will. The spousal shield is lifted. Exactly, Sophia said, her eyes hardening. As long as I was his wife, I couldn't vote against him without causing a conflict of interest. Arthur wanted to give him a chance to prove he was a good man. He failed. Henderson tapped the screen of his tablet. I've just uploaded the updated shareholder registry to the SEC. It will go public at 8:00 a.m. tomorrow. Sophia looked out the window as the car pulled away from the curb, leaving the towering penthouse behind. How much do I officially own Silas? Well, the lawyer smiled. Sterling owns 40%. The public owns 9%. But the Vance Trust, which Arthur secretly transferred his entire private holding to, owns 51%. You don't just own the majority, Sophia. You own him. Sophia rested her head back. Cancel his corporate credit cards at 9:00 a.m., lock his email access at 9:15, and Silas. Yes, Madam Chairman. Call a board meeting for noon. Tell them the owner is finally coming to work. The morning sun hit the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse blindingly bright. Sterling Thorne woke up feeling like a king. He rolled over, expecting to see Sophia's side of the bed neatly made, as she always rose at 5:00 a.m. to organize his schedule. Instead, he saw Isabella sprawled across the silk sheets, her sleep mask still on. He smiled. This was the life he was meant for. No more boring lectures about corporate responsibility. No more quiet dinners. Just glamour, power, and Isabella. He reached for his phone on the nightstand to check the stock prices. He expected a surge following his announcement at the gala. No service. Sterling frowned. He tapped the screen. Nothing. He sat up annoyed and grabbed the landline. Dead tone. Ridiculous, he muttered, marching into the kitchen. He pressed the button on the high-end espresso machine, a beast of Italian engineering that cost more than a small car. It flashed a red error message. User profile blocked. Isabella, Sterling shouted, his patience already fraying. Did you touch the smart home settings? Isabella drifted into the kitchen, wrapping a silk robe around herself. Don't yell, darling. I haven't touched a thing. Order breakfast. I want Crave smoked salmon. Fine. Sterling pulled out his wallet and grabbed his sleek black Centurion card, the black card that had no limit. He opened the delivery app on his personal tablet. Card declined. He tried his Platinum business card. Card declined. A cold knot formed in his stomach. It wasn't fear yet. It was just confusion. He was Sterling Thorne. He didn't get declined. He assumed it was a bank error, a security freeze because of the divorce filing. Get dressed, he snapped at Isabella. The driver is downstairs. We're going to the office. I'll fire the bank manager on the way. But when they reached the curb of the Millennium Tower, the usual spot where his chauffeur George waited every morning was empty. Where is he? Isabella shivered in the morning wind, clutching her designer purse. This is embarrassing, Sterling. People are looking. He's fired, Sterling growled, hailing a yellow taxi like a common tourist. Get in. The ride to Thorne Tower was tense. Sterling spent the entire time screaming at his phone provider on Isabella's phone, only to be put on hold. When the taxi pulled up to the gleaming 70-story skyscraper that bore his last name, Sterling felt a surge of relief. This was his kingdom. Here he was, God. He marched toward the private executive turnstiles, Isabella clicking along behind him in high heels. The lobby was bustling with employees. Usually the sea of people parted for him. Today he noticed whispers, eyes darting away, giggles. Sterling ignored them and slapped his pass against the scanner. Beep beep, access denied. He tried again, harder. Beep beep, access denied. Is there a problem, Mr. Thorne? Sterling spun around. It was Frank, the head of lobby security. Frank was a large man, a former Marine who had worked there for 20 years. He usually greeted Sterling with a salute. Today, Frank's arms were crossed. "My card is malfunctioning, Frank. Let me through," Sterling demanded. "Can't do that, sir," Frank said, his face impassive. "System says you're flagged as a non-employee/visitor. You need to go to this front desk and sign in." "Excuse me," Sterling's voice echoed in the marble lobby. The chatter died down. Everyone was watching. "I am the CEO of this company. I own this building. Open the damn gate." "Sir, if you cause a disturbance, I'll have to ask you to leave," Frank said, his hand drifting to his belt. Isabella grabbed Sterling's arm. "Sterling, stop! Everyone is filming," she hissed, nodding toward a group of interns holding up their phones. Sterling looked around. The humiliation burned his face. He walked to the front desk, his hands shaking with rage. The receptionist, a young woman named Sarah, who Sophia used to bring cookies to, looked up nervously. "Name?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You know who I am," Sterling whispered dangerously. "I need you to spell it, sir, for the log." "Sterling, He spat the letters out. Sarah typed slowly. "Reason for visit." "I am going to fire every single person in this lobby," he roared. "I'll put down human resources inquiry," Sarah said sweetly. She printed a sticker, a white paper sticker that said, "Visitor. Please wear this visible at all times. You can take the service elevator. The executive lift is reserved for executives." Sterling snatched the badge. He didn't stick it on his suit. He crumpled it in his fist. "Come on, Isabella." They squeezed into the service elevator along with a mail cart and two janitors who refused to make eye contact. As the lift rose, the smell of cleaning chemicals filled the small space, replacing the scent of success Sterling was used to. He checked his watch. 11:55 a.m. "Just wait," Sterling muttered, adjusting his tie in the reflection of the metal doors. "When I get to the boardroom, heads are going to roll. I'm going to burn this whole department to the ground." He didn't know that he was walking into a funeral, and the corpse in the casket was his career. The doors to the 70th floor opened. Sterling stormed down the hallway, expecting chaos. He expected his secretary Maggie to be weeping, the phones to be ringing off the hook, the office in disarray without his leadership. Instead, it was silent. Maggie wasn't at her desk. Her personal items, the photos of her cats, her mugs, were gone. The desk was bare. "Where is everyone?" Isabella asked, her voice echoing in the empty reception area. "The boardroom," Sterling said, marching toward the double mahogany doors at the end of the hall. "They're plotting. The vultures smell blood because of the stock drop." He didn't bother knocking. He threw the doors open with both hands ready to shout. "Which one of you incompetents locked me out of my—" The words died in his throat. The boardroom was full. The 12 members of the board of directors were seated around the long, oval table. The atmosphere was heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. To his right sat Marcus Vane, Sterling's corporate rival and the second-largest shareholder. Or so, Sterling thought. Marcus was grinning, twirling a fountain pen. To his left was Silas Henderson, the company lawyer. Silas didn't look up. He was organizing a stack of files. But it was the head of the table that stopped Sterling's heart. The chairman's seat. It had been Arthur Thorne's seat. Since Arthur died, Sterling had sat there. It was his throne. But today, someone else was sitting in it. The high-backed leather chair was turned away from the door facing the window that overlooked the Manhattan skyline. "You're late, Mr. Thorne," Silas Henderson said, checking his watch. The meeting began at noon sharp. "Get out of my chair," Sterling barked at the figure facing the window. "And Silas, you're fired. Security locked me out. Fix it. Now." "I can't do that, Sterling," Silas said calmly. "I take my orders from the majority shareholder. I am the majority shareholder." Sterling slammed his fist on the table. "I own 40%. Marcus has 15. The rest is scattered. I control this room." The chair at the head of the table slowly swiveled around. Isabella gasped. It was Sophia. But it wasn't the Sophia from the night before. The gray oversized dress was gone. The glasses were gone. She wore a tailored white suit that looked sharp enough to cut glass. Her hair, usually pulled back in a messy bun, fell in sleek waves around her shoulders. She wore bold red lipstick. She didn't look like a librarian. She looked like a predator. Actually, Sterling, Sophia said, her voice smooth and commanding, math was never your strong suit. You own 40% of the public shares, but you forgot about the private trust. The trust? Sterling stammered. Grandfather left that to the estate. It's dormant. It was dormant, Sophia corrected, until a condition was met. She picked up a remote and clicked it. A screen descended from the ceiling. On it was a scanned image of a legal document dated 3 years prior. It was Arthur Thorne's last will and testament. Sophia stood up. She wasn't tall, but she loomed over the room. Clause 14, Section B. The control of the Thorne Family Trust, comprising 51% of total company assets, shall be held in stewardship by the spouse of my grandson Sterling. This stewardship is silent and powerless, serving only as a moral compass. Unless the marriage is dissolved by Sterling's initiative without just cause. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. If you divorce me, Sophia continued, walking slowly toward him, the trust activates. And the ownership transfers fully to me, to protect the company from, how did Arthur phrase it, a man who values vanity over loyalty. Sterling felt the blood drain from his face. He looked at Silas. Is this true? Ironclad, Silas confirmed. You signed the divorce papers last night, Sterling. You pulled the trigger yourself. No, Sterling whispered. He looked around the table. Marcus, you can't let this happen. She's a nobody. She's a waitress. She doesn't know how to run a multinational conglomerate. Marcus Vane leaned back, interlacing his fingers. Actually, Sterling, we've been reviewing Sophia's notes. Notes? What notes? Marcus slid a thick binder across the table. Apparently while you were out on your yacht with Miss Montclair. Marcus nodded at Isabella, who shrank back. Sophia was reviewing the quarterly reports. She's the one who suggested the merger with Orion Tech in the margins of your paperwork. She's the one who flagged the accounting error in the European division that saved us $50 million last year. Sterling stared at the binder. He recognized Sophia's handwriting. He had seen those notes before. He had ignored them, or worse, passed the ideas off as his own without reading them thoroughly. She's been doing your homework for 3 years. Marcus laughed. And frankly, the board prefers the original architect to the copycat. Sophia stopped in front of Sterling. She smelled of rain and expensive soap. She didn't look angry. She looked disappointed. I tried to help you, Sterling, she said softly. I loved you. I thought if I supported you from the shadows, you'd eventually grow into the man Arthur wanted you to be. But you're small, and small men destroy big things. You can't do this, Sterling hissed. I am the face of this company. Not anymore. Sophia turned to the board. Motion to remove Sterling Thorne as CEO effective immediately, citing gross negligence and reputational damage. Seconded, Marcus said instantly. All in favor? Silas asked. Every single hand in the room went up. Motion passed, Sophia said. She looked at the security guard standing by the door. Frank was there again. Frank, please escort Mr. Thorne and his guest out of the building. And make sure to collect his company phone and laptop before he leaves. With pleasure, Madam Chairman, Frank grinned. Wait. Isabella suddenly stepped forward, shoving Sterling aside. Sophia, listen to me. I didn't know he told me he was the owner. He told me you were just a gold digger. Sterling looked at Isabella, betrayed. Isabella, what are you doing? Isabella ignored him. She looked at Sophia with pleading eyes. I'm a victim here too. I don't want to be with a loser who doesn't even have a job. I'm leaving him right now. Can we be cool? Sophia looked at Isabella, then down at Sterling. A dry, humorless laugh escaped her lips. Sterling, Sophia said. It looks like you've lost your company and your trophy in the span of 5 minutes. She turned her back on them, returning to the head of the table. Get them out of my sight. We have work to do. As Frank grabbed Sterling by the arm, the former CEO began to scream, thrashing against the grip. You'll pay for this, Sophia. You hear me? You're nothing. I made you. The door slammed shut, cutting off his screams. Sophia stood at the head of the table, her hands resting on the leather. Her hands were shaking just a little. She took a deep breath. Gentlemen, she said, looking at the board, and ladies, thank you for your vote of confidence. Now let's talk about the Asian markets. The sidewalk outside Thorn Tower was cold, but the flashbulbs were hot. Sterling stumbled out of the revolving doors shoved by Frank. He nearly tripped over his own feet. Isabella followed a second later, keeping a safe distance from him. The paparazzi were already there. The news of the boardroom coup had leaked. Mr. Thorne, is it true you were fired by your ex-wife? Isabella, are you staying with him now that he's bankrupt? Sterling looked this way. Give us a smile. Sterling shielded his eyes. No comment. Get away from me. He turned to grab Isabella's hand, needing an anchor, needing someone to tell him it was a nightmare. Isabella slapped his hand away. The sound was captured by a dozen microphones. Don't touch me, she snapped. The cameras went wild. Bella, Sterling pleaded. Baby, it's a legal mistake. I'll fix it. I just need a good lawyer. You don't have money for a lawyer, Sterling, Isabella scoffed. And you certainly don't have money for me. She pulled a pair of oversized sunglasses from her purse and put them on. I'm taking the Uber. Don't call me. She strutted away, weaving through the paparazzi like a pro, leaving Sterling standing alone on the concrete. He checked his pockets. No phone, no wallet, just the crumpled visitor sticker in his hand. It started to rain. 2 weeks later, Sophia sat in the CEO's office. She had redecorated. The cold chrome and black leather were gone, replaced by warm oak bookshelves filled with actual books and soft lighting. The stock price of Thorne Enterprises had risen 15% since the announcement of the leadership change. The public loved the story, the scorned wife who was the secret genius behind the throne. They called her the Silent Queen. Intercom buzzed. Ms. Vance, Mr. Henderson is here. Send him in. Silas walked in, looking grim. He sat opposite her desk. We have a situation with Sterling, Silas said. Sophia didn't look up from her laptop. Is he suing? He tried. No lawyer will take the case. The will is too clear. Silas hesitated. No, he's broke, Sophia. Truly broke. The IRS froze his personal accounts due to some irregularities during his tenure that we uncovered. He's been sleeping in his car. Or the car he has left. Sophia stopped typing. She took off her glasses. She remembered the man she married. She remembered the nights he would hold her when she had nightmares about her parents' death. She remembered that deep down under layers of ego and Arthur's pressure there was a human being. She wasn't Sterling. She didn't want to destroy him just for the sport of it. Justice had been served. Cruelty was unnecessary. Where is he? Sophia asked. He's in the lobby, Silas said. He's asking for a meeting. He says he'll take any job. He just needs a chance. Sophia stood up and walked to the window. She looked down at the city. She held the power now, and with power came the choice of what kind of ruler she wanted to be. Let him up, Sophia said. Silas raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Yes. But Silas. Yes. Have security stand by. And bring me the file on the mailroom logistics coordinator position. Silas smirked. Understood. When Sterling entered the office 10 minutes later, he was a shadow of his former self. He hadn't shaved. His suit was wrinkled. He looked tired and small. He stood in the doorway, unable to look Sophia in the eye. "Hello, Sterling," Sophia said, remaining seated. She didn't offer him a drink. "Sophia." His voice cracked. He cleared his throat. "Ms. Vance? Silas tells me you're looking for work." Sterling clenched his jaw. The pride was still there, fighting to survive. I have a lot of experience. I ran this company for 3 years." "You ran it into the ground," Sophia corrected gently. "But you do know the building, and you know the people." She slid a single piece of paper across the desk. "I'm prepared to offer you a position. It comes with a salary of $45,000 a year, health benefits included after 90 days. You'll report to Mr. Henderson." Sterling stepped forward and looked at the paper. His eyes widened. Position senior archivist and mailroom clerk. "You want me to work in the basement?" Sterling whispered. "Where you used to work." "It's a quiet place, Sterling," Sophia said. "Lots of time to think. Arthur loved the archives. He said it's where the truth lives. I think you need to spend some time with the truth." Sterling looked at her. He wanted to scream. He wanted to tear the paper up, but he thought about his frozen bank accounts. He thought about the cold nights. He swallowed his pride. It tasted like ash. "I'll take it." "Good," Sophia said. She picked up her pen and went back to work. "You start Monday, 8 tons your AM. Don't be late. And Sterling." He paused at the door. "Yes." "Use the service elevator." 6 months had passed since the boardroom coup. The basement of Thorn Tower was a world away from the penthouse. It smelled of old paper dust and the metallic tang of the heating pipes. There were no windows, no champagne, and certainly no paparazzi. Sterling Thorn sat at a small metal desk, the sleeves of his white dress shirt rolled up to his elbows. He wasn't wearing a tie. His suit jacket was draped over the back of a rusted chair. He looked different. The bloat of excessive alcohol and rich food was gone, replaced by a lean, hungry look. There were dark circles under his eyes, but they weren't from partying. They were from reading. "Incoming delivery, Sterling," a voice called out. It was old Ben, the head of the mailroom. Ben was 70 years old, walked with a limp, and had been with the company since Arthur Thorne started it in a garage. In the old days, Sterling wouldn't have even looked at Ben. Now Ben was the only person Sterling ate lunch with. "Thanks, Ben," Sterling said, taking the stack of interdepartmental envelopes. "I'll sort them for the legal department." "You're getting fast at this, kid," Ben grunted, sitting on a crate. "You know, when you first came down here, I gave you a week. Thought you'd hang yourself with a mail sack." Sterling didn't smile. He sorted the envelopes with rhythmic precision. "I didn't have anywhere else to go, Ben." "You could have left, gone to Europe, lived off whatever scraps you had." "I have no scraps," Sterling said quietly. "And I needed to know." "Know what?" Why she did it. Why she waited 3 years. Sterling stopped sorting. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a leather-bound book. It wasn't a ledger, it was a journal. 2 months ago, while reorganizing the dead files section archives from 20 years ago, Sterling had found a box marked Arthur Thorne, Personal Private. It hadn't been cataloged. He had opened it, expecting dry financial notes. Instead, he found a chronicle of his grandfather's thoughts, and on almost every page of the last volume, there was one name, Sophia. Sterling opened the book to a page marked with a sticky note. He had read it 100 times, but he read it again. October 14th, 2021. I played chess with the new archivist, Miss Vance, today. I thought I would let her win to be polite. I was checkmated in 12 moves. She plays like a predator, but she speaks like a saint. She told me she doesn't care about money, only about order. She says a company is like a garden. If you don't prune the weeds, the flowers die. Sterling is a weed. I love him, but he is choking the life out of this legacy. I need someone to prune him. I need Sophia." Sterling closed the book. "A weed," he whispered. "Talking to yourself again?" Ben asked. "Grandfather knew," Sterling said, looking at the concrete ceiling. "He knew I was incompetent. He married me to Sophia not to save her, but to save the company from me." Suddenly the service elevator dinged. This was unusual. The mail pickup wasn't until 4 p.m. The doors opened and the clack of high heels echoed on the concrete floor. The chatter in the mail room died instantly. The 3 other clerks froze. Ben stood up, straightening his uniform. Sophia Vance walked in. She was wearing a navy power suit, her hair pinned back with a diamond clip. She looked radiant, powerful, and terrifyingly distant. 2 security guards trailed her, but she waved them back. She walked straight to Sterling's desk. Sterling stood up. He felt a sudden crushing wave of shame. He wiped his dusty hands on his trousers. "Madam Chairman," he said, his voice rough. "Mr. Thorne," Sophia replied. Her eyes scanned the small, cramped workspace. She saw the sorted mail, the organized files, the lack of pretension. Her gaze landed on the leather journal on his desk. She recognized it immediately. "You found Arthur's diaries," she stated. "I did." "Did you read the entry about the chess game?" "Yes." Sophia nodded. "He loved that game. He said it was the first time in 10 years someone didn't let him win because of his last name." "Why are you here, Sophia?" Sterling asked. "Did I mess up a delivery? Do you need to fire me again?" "I need a file," she said. "The merger agreement with Kincaid Shipping from 1998. It's not in the digital database. Legal says the physical copy was lost in the flood of 2010. Sterling frowned. He closed his eyes, visualizing the miles of shelves behind him. He had spent 6 months memorizing every box, every label. It was the only thing that kept him sane. "It wasn't lost," Sterling said, opening his eyes. "It was misfiled under maritime insurance instead of mergers. Aisle 4, Shelf B, Box 112. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" "I'll get it." Sterling walked into the dark rows of shelves. He moved with a purpose he never had as CEO. He returned 2 minutes later, blowing dust off a yellowed manila folder. He handed it to her. Sophia opened it. "This is it." She looked at him. Truly looked at him for the first time in months. "Silas told me you haven't missed a day. He says you're the most efficient clerk we've ever had." "It's easy to be efficient when you have nothing else in your life," Sterling said. Sophia hesitated. "There is a gala tonight. The winter solstice ball. It's at the Met." "I know," Sterling said. "I sorted the invitations. Damon Kincaid will be there. He's challenging our acquisition of the Port Authority. He's aggressive." "Kincaid is a shark," Sterling said instinctively. "He attacks when he smells blood. If he's challenging the port deal, it means he's shorting our stock. He wants to drive the price down before the quarterly report." Sophia stared at him. "That's actually correct. How did you know that?" "I used to play golf with him." Sterling shrugged. "He cheats. He moves the ball when you're not looking. He'll try to intimidate you tonight. He'll try to make you look weak in front of the investors." Sophia clutched the file tight. "Let him try." She turned to leave. "Sophia," Sterling called out. She stopped. "Check your left flank," he said. "Excuse me. In chess. And with Kincaid. He always feints with his right hand, big lawsuits, loud threats, but he strikes with his left. Check the environmental reports on the port. That's where he'll hit you." Sophia studied him for a long moment. The silence stretched heavy with the ghost of their marriage. "Thank you, Sterling," she said softly. As the elevator doors closed, taking the light with her, Sterling sat back down in the dark. He picked up the next envelope, but for the first time in 6 months he didn't feel like a weed. He felt just maybe like a pawn that had finally made its first useful move. The Metropolitan Museum of Art was transformed into a glittering palace of ice and gold for the winter solstice ball. It was the most exclusive event of the New York season. Sophia stood near the Temple of Dender sipping champagne. She looked calm, but inside her mind was racing. Sterling's warning had been right. Just hours ago, her team had found a fabricated environmental report planted by Kincaid's shell company designed to kill the port deal. They had neutralized it, but it was close. "You look tense for a woman who owns the city." A deep, raspy voice purred behind her. Sophia turned. Damon Kincaid stood there. He was a massive man, broad-shouldered, with silver hair and a face that looked like it had been carved out of granite. He wore a tuxedo that cost more than most people's homes, and on his arm was Isabella. Sophia didn't blink. Isabella looked stunning in emerald green, but her eyes were hard-filled with a mixture of hatred and desperation. "Mr. Kincaid," Sophia nodded politely. "And Isabella, I see you found a new sponsor." Isabella flushed. "Watch your mouth, Sophia. Damon is going to destroy you." Kincaid chuckled, patting Isabella's hand. Now, pet. Let the adults talk." He stepped closer to Sophia, invading her personal space. "You got lucky with the environmental report, Ms. Vance, but luck runs out." "It wasn't luck," Sophia said coolly. "It was diligence. Something you lack, Damon." Kincaid's smile vanished. "You think you belong here? You're a librarian, a glorified secretary who tricked a senile old man into giving her a fortune. These people," he gestured to the room full of billionaires and politicians, "they smile at you, but they laugh behind your back. They know you're a fraud." "I don't care what they think," Sophia said. "I care about the bottom line, and right now Thorne Enterprises is up 20 points. Kincaid Shipping is stagnating." Kincaid's eyes narrowed. "You want to talk numbers, fine. Let's make this interesting. I hear you like games. Arthur used to brag about your chess skills." "I play," Sophia said. "Then play me," Kincaid challenged. "Right now. A blitz game. 5 minutes." "I'm not interested in parlor games, Damon. If I win—" Kincaid raised his voice, drawing the attention of the nearby guests. "You sell me the Port Authority rights at market value. No markup." The crowd began to turn. A hush fell over the room. "And if I win?" Sophia asked, her voice steady. "If you win," Kincaid sneered, "I'll withdraw my bid for the Asian trade route. The whole territory is yours." Gasps rippled through the crowd. That trade route was worth billions. It was a reckless bet born of Kincaid's arrogance. He was a state champion in college. He was known for crushing opponents psychologically. He looked at Sophia, seeing a small woman in a dress, and saw an easy victim. "You're on," Sophia said. A waiter was quickly dispatched to find a board. Within minutes, a table was cleared in the center of the room. A beautiful marble chess set was placed between them. Kincaid sat down, cracking his knuckles. Isabella stood behind him, smirking at Sophia. "He's going to crush you," she whispered. Sophia sat down. She adjusted her glasses. She looked at the board, and for a split second the noise of the party faded. She wasn't at the Met. She was back in the archives with Arthur, the only man who had ever respected her mind. "Ladies first," Kincaid mocked, gesturing to the white pieces. Sophia moved her king's pawn. E4. Kincaid responded instantly. C5. The Sicilian defense. Aggressive. The game moved with lightning speed. Click-clack. Click-clack. Kincaid played dirty. He tapped his fingers loudly on the table. He made snide comments. "Is that the best you can do, a waitress move? Did Sterling teach you that? Oh wait, he's in the basement." Sophia ignored him. Her face was a mask of concentration. By the 20th move, Kincaid looked confident. He had captured her bishop and a knight. Sophia appeared to be on the defensive, her pieces huddled around her king. "Give up, Sophia," Isabella laughed. "It's embarrassing." "Check," Kincaid announced, slamming his queen down. Sophia moved her king. "You're cornered." Kincaid grinned. He looked at the crowd. "See, this is what happens when amateurs try to play with the big boys." Sophia looked up. She locked eyes with Kincaid. "You're right, Damon," she said softly. "Amateurs chase pieces. Masters chase the king." She reached out and moved her rook, sacrificing it directly to his queen. The crowd gasped. "A blunder," someone shouted. Kincaid laughed. "Game over." He took the rook. Sophia didn't flinch. She picked up her knight, the piece everyone, including Kincaid, had ignored, because it seemed stuck on the edge of the board. She placed it on a white square deep in Kincaid's territory. "Checkmate," she whispered. Kincaid froze. He looked at the board. His smile faltered. He looked left. He looked right. His king was trapped. His own pawns blocked his escape. The knight delivered the killing blow. That's impossible," Kincaid stammered. I had your queen pinned." "You were so focused on taking my power," Sophia said, standing up, "that you forgot to protect your own." The room erupted in applause. It wasn't polite applause this time. It was genuine, thunderous shock. Sophia turned to Isabella, whose face was pale. "You picked the wrong horse again, Isabella," Sophia said. She turned to walk away, the victor, the queen of the board. But as she moved through the crowd, her phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Get out of there. Now." It was a distraction. Sophia frowned. She recognized the phrasing. It was concise, urgent. It was Sterling. Before she could reply, the fire alarms of the Metropolitan Museum began to scream. Strobing lights filled the hall. Panic ensued as hundreds of wealthy guests began to shove toward the exits. In the chaos, Sophia felt a heavy hand clamp over her mouth. "You humiliated me," Kincaid's voice hissed in her ear. He wasn't playing a game anymore. "You think I'm going to let you walk away with my trade routes?" He dragged her backward away from the crowd toward a service door disguised as a wall panel. Isabella was there, holding the door open, her eyes wide with terror, but her loyalty to Kincaid's money overriding her conscience. "Isabella, don't do this," Sophia muffled against the hand. "I have to," Isabella whimpered. "He promised me." They shoved Sophia into the dark corridor behind the museum walls. Kincaid pulled out a syringe. "A little sedative. We'll have a private negotiation on my boat. By morning you'll sign over the company or you'll vanish." Sophia struggled, kicking out, but Kincaid was too strong. The needle moved closer to her neck. Crash! The door at the end of the corridor flew open. A figure sprinted down the hallway. He wasn't wearing a tuxedo. He was wearing a janitor's jumpsuit that was 2 sizes too small. It was Sterling. He didn't stop. He didn't hesitate. He tackled Kincaid with the force of a linebacker, slamming the billionaire into the concrete wall. The syringe skittered across the floor. "Run, Sophia!" Sterling shouted, grappling with Kincaid. Kincaid roared, landing a heavy punch to Sterling's jaw. Sterling's head snapped back, blood flying. He wasn't a fighter. He was a soft corporate heir, but he held on, wrapping his arms around Kincaid's legs to keep him from getting to Sophia. Isabella screamed and ran away, abandoning them both. Sophia looked at the syringe, then at Sterling, who was taking a beating. Kincaid was huge. He was going to kill him. Sophia grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall. She didn't run away. She ran back. "Hey, Damon!" she screamed. Kincaid looked up, his fist raised to deliver a final blow to Sterling. Sophia swung the heavy metal canister with all her strength. It connected with Kincaid's head with a sickening thud. The billionaire collapsed, instantly unconscious. Silence returned to the hallway, save for the distant wail of the fire alarm. Sterling lay on the floor, gasping for air, his face swelling rapidly. He looked up at Sophia through one open eye. "I told you," he wheezed, spitting blood. "Check your left flank." Sophia dropped the extinguisher. She fell to her knees beside him. She reached out her hand, hovering over his bruised face. "You came?" she whispered. "You actually came?" "I was watching the security feed, in the van outside." Sterling coughed. "I knew he wouldn't accept a loss." "You're an idiot," Sophia said, tears welling in her eyes. "You could have been killed." "I owed you." Sterling managed a weak, bloody smile. "For the chess game. Grandfather was right. You really are a genius." He passed out. Sophia pulled his head into her lap, looking at the man who had discarded her, the man who had lost everything, and the man who had just saved her life. "Help!" she screamed down the corridor. "Somebody help!" The waiting room at Mount Sinai Hospital was suffocatingly white. Sophia paced the linoleum floor, the heels of her shoes clicking a rhythm that matched her racing heart. Her gala dress was ruined, stained with the dust of the museum floor and the blood of the man she had divorced. Silas Henderson sat on a plastic chair, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. He was on the phone, barking legal orders. He hung up and looked at Sophia. "It's over," Silas said, rubbing his temples. "Police found the sedative in Kincaid's pocket. Isabella cracked under interrogation within 5 minutes. She gave them everything: the shell companies, the fraud, the plan to kidnap you. Kincaid is looking at 20 years. Isabella is looking at 5 as an accomplice." "I don't care about them," Sophia said, her voice tight. "I care about the man in the ICU. The doctor said he's stable, Sophia. Concussion, 3 broken ribs, a fractured jaw. But he's stable." "He shouldn't have been there," she whispered. "He was safe. He was out." "He was never out," Silas said gently. "He was just waiting for the right moment to buy back his soul." A doctor in blue scrubs emerged from the double doors. "Family of Sterling Thorne." "I'm his wife," Sophia said instinctively. She paused. "Ex-wife. I'm his emergency contact." "He's awake," the doctor said. "He's asking for the chairman." Sophia walked into the dim room. Sterling looked terrible. His face was purple and swollen, his left eye completely shut. He was hooked up to a morphine drip. But when he saw her, his good eye crinkled in a painful attempt at a smile. "You look," he rasped, his voice barely a whisper, "like you won the game." Sophia pulled a chair close to the bed. She took his hand. It was rougher than she remembered, calloused from 6 months of manual labor. "We won," Sophia corrected him. "Kincaid is gone. The trade route is ours." Sterling closed his eye. "Good. Grandfather would be proud." "Sterling," Sophia squeezed his hand. "Why did you do it? You jumped in front of a man twice your size. You have nothing to gain. No shares, no title." "I had everything to gain," Sterling murmured. "For 3 years I thought value came from what I owned. But down in that basement, reading Arthur's words, I realized value comes from what you protect." He looked at her. "I couldn't protect the company from myself, but I could protect you from him." Tears finally spilled over Sophia's cheeks. "You're not a weed, Sterling." "Maybe not anymore," he sighed. "But I'm not a king either." "No," Sophia said firmly. "You're not. You're a terrible CEO. You're impatient, you're vain, and you're bad with numbers." Sterling chuckled, then winced in pain. "Don't hold back." "But—" Sophia continued, brushing the hair off his bruised forehead. "You have heart, and you have loyalty, and I can't teach those things." She reached into her clutch and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It wasn't a contract. It was a letter of appointment. "The board voted an hour ago," she said. "We're creating a new division, the Arthur Thorne Heritage Foundation. It oversees all our charitable giving, our community outreach, and the preservation of the company's history. It requires someone who understands the soul of this family." She placed the paper on his chest. "I don't want a partner in the boardroom, Sterling. I run the business better alone, but I need a partner in the world. Will you accept? Sterling looked at the paper. It wasn't power. It was purpose. Director Thorne, he whispered, testing the title. It sounds honest. It is, Sophia smiled. And one more thing. The position comes with an office on the 40th floor. No. Sterling shook his head slightly. I'll take the office on the ground floor, near the people. I'm done looking down on the world. 6 months later. The morning sun hit Thorne Tower. In the grand lobby, the turnstiles beeped rhythmically. Sterling Thorne walked in. He wasn't wearing a three-piece Italian suit. He wore a sensible blazer and khakis. He stopped at the security desk. Morning, Frank. Sterling smiled. Good morning, Mr. Thorne. Frank saluted, a genuine smile on his face. Madam Chairman is waiting for you in the courtyard. Sterling walked out to the private garden behind the tower. Sophia was sitting at a stone table, a chessboard set up between them. She moved her pawn. You're late. I was helping the interns set up the food drive. Sterling sat down, moving his knight. Check your left flank, Sophia teased. I already did, Sterling countered, capturing her bishop. Check. Sophia looked at the board. She looked at Sterling. He was healthy, happy, and for the first time in his life, he was a good man. They weren't married again, not yet. They were taking it slow, building something real, brick by brick, move by move. You're getting better, Sophia noted. I have a good teacher, Sterling replied, holding her gaze. Sophia smiled, tipping her king over in surrender. I yield. You let me win, Sterling accused her. Maybe, Sophia stood up, taking his hand. Or maybe I just realized that winning isn't everything. Sometimes it's better to just play the game. They walked back toward the tower together, not as a king and a nobody, but as equals. And that is the story of how a nobody brought a billionaire to his knees, only to help him stand back up as a better man. It just goes to show that true power isn't about the money in your bank account, but the character in your heart. Sterling had to lose everything to find out who he really was, and Sophia showed that the ultimate revenge isn't destruction, it's success. What do you think? Did Sterling deserve a second chance, or should Sophia have left him in the mailroom forever? I want to hear your thoughts. If you would have forgiven him, comment Team Redemption below. If you think he got off too easy, comment Team Karma. If you enjoyed this story of justice, betrayal, and romance, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.